Chapter 6. The Universe. Speaking relatively and creating reality. If everything in the universe were green, would the color green even exist? Nope. And the chicken crossed the road only to get to the other side, no matter what any of us think. Wait, what? There would be no reason for the color green to exist because everything would just be and exist as one thing. So that one thing doesn't need to be known as green. There's nothing to compare green to in the scenario. So if only the color green exists, then the color green does not need to exist. Take a minute with that. Are we good, or are you still working it out? No matter how long you need, it's growth, so let's go deeper. You. Hang on, dude, I'm still trying to figure out why you told the punchline to the chicken joke. If everything were considered good, would good or evil exist? This is a little different, but not really, because it depends on who's doing the considering. Which one is it, Neil? Different or not really? I know that I'm the only one typing, but let's leave the questions for in-between chapters. Somehow, I don't think that's going to happen. But what do I know? I'm just the guy writing the book. Hey, who wrote the last paragraph? Damn gypsies. I'll rephrase the question so as not to confuse the audience in my head. What would we need to exist in order for good to exist? I kind of gave the answer in the previous paragraph, and the answer is anything you feel that is the opposite of good. Cool? Good. Now deeper. In order to define the opposite of good, you must have your very own definition of what good is to you. So, by default, bad or evil only exists at the opposite end of what you believe to be good. But Neil, isn't everyone's definition of good at least a little different? Exactly. Great question. Keep them coming and forget what I said earlier about saving them for in-between chapters, especially if they're going to move the conversation forward like this. Good is the measure against what you believe to be bad, evil, corrupt, sinful, terrible, nasty, foul, atrocious, or any of the words I just took out of the thesaurus. Right is the measurement against what you believe to be wrong, or maybe left. And happiness is the measurement against what you believe to be sadness. See? Same, but different. Same in the fact that you need something to measure against for it to exist. Relativity. But different than the way that color is defined. The point that I'm getting to here is that you must make up what's wrong in your life in order for it to be wrong, which is relative to what you believe to be right, or at least say to be right in the moment, or left, whatever. So now, think of the way you speak on a daily basis, especially to yourself, and all the right and wrong you may create in your world throughout the day. Does most of it have anything to do with what is actually going on in the present moment? Or is the bullshit machine associating what it sees relative to what it always likes or doesn't like, and then trying to get us to agree with it by pointing out nonsensical problems that don't really exist? This is one perspective of what our opinions are. The more aware you are of this, the more you'll notice just how much you carry your problems around all day, so you'll have something to talk about and weirdly resonate with other people. Which brings me to what the hell any of us are talking about at any given moment, and how so much of it is a program that's barely relative to anything actually going on. Oh my god, I'm having the worst day ever for the third time this week. And then a friend will say, oh yeah? I've had 5 worst days ever this week, top that fucko. And a perfectly normal conversation will begin between friends that like to swear at each other about how much life stinks. Here, we're never giving ourselves a chance to see any good in the day because we're too focused on all the misery in our mind, believing it's actually happening, and then having someone confirm that this not real thing we're talking about is real. Not only that, but the way we communicate our problems to each other has us competing for whose bullshit story is worse, and how many more times the worst thing happened. By repeating how bad things are in our lives, we're programming how bad things are in our lives, and eventually the bullshit machine doesn't know how to identify an actual problem, because everything is a problem. Now, it's common for human beings to take a 20-minute situation and carry around the baggage for days, weeks, and even years, and then blame their current environment for how they feel. I did it all the time, and knowing what I know now, like 99% of my complaints were not relative to the situation at hand. I was miserable because I programmed myself to be miserable, and there were massive amounts of freedom in that admission. The complaints were made up of problems the bullshit machine was inventing, so I could keep fighting whatever fight I thought I was fighting. Starting sentences with stuff like, I can't stand when people, is a huge indicator that someone's bullshit machine is running the show, and you're about to get a real treat from the person speaking. You must, of course, be aware to notice it. Fully functioning adult human beings, educated and seemingly rational, like me, can be in a space that's picture perfect, with awesome weather, surrounded by great friends, food, music, or all of the above, and still complain about people backing into parking spaces instead of just pulling in forward. It's making something wrong for the sake of making something wrong in a mental construct in our minds, then dumping a negative opinion about the mental construct onto the present moment. It's completely normal for us to have conversations like this. But do you see how we fill our space with negativity that isn't really there just to have an opinion heard? It's not about never having an opinion. If that thought just popped into your head, it's about asking ourselves the question, do I need to make all these opinions based on what I think is wrong or right, and carry around the negativity from them from conversation to conversation? The more aware you become of how you're speaking, the more you'll notice that when you start a sentence with, "Why can't everyone just," or "The people that annoy me the most are," it's likely that you're making up a problem in a moment when there is no problem, just so you can feel like you're in a familiar place, even though the problems you think you see or feel are not there. Breathe. What is hopefully starting to open up here is that no matter who you are, the bullshit machine gone unattended is creating its own relativity to your current situation based on past experiences and not the environment you're in. To me, this inherently sounds like the ego is protecting us from what it knows as danger. And it is, but it's protecting us from past dangers that most likely never happened the way they're being remembered, or how they're being presented at the time. That's why you can have a panic attack at a perfectly safe grocery store, restaurant, or race car driving school. The bullshit machine is using what it has to assess the situation, memory, and if you're not involved, it will say, "Holy shit, let's get out of here," when you're in line to buy toilet paper. That was my life. Every once in a while, it feels really good to ask this question to the mirror. What's wrong? Seriously. In your life right now, what is wrong, and how do you define what wrong is? Are you screaming at everyone from your car with the windows up because they won't use their turn signal when you think they should, even though they can't hear you? Who is that behavior satisfying in your life, or anyone's life, especially when you're the only one listening? If you felt that sensation in your nether region and belly go up to your throat and promptly said, "Me, because I could say whatever the hell I want, people do not know how to effing drive," then understand that's the sensation you want to catch and be aware of. The bullshit machine is using that sensation to confirm that your program needs to be right and has something to prove while you're reading a book. Weird. So what would happen if we didn't create so much wrong about nothing? How would it be possible to feel if you owned your thoughts and actions and didn't need to show the world you're right and present how upset you can get all the time? What if there was nothing to win, or nothing to prove, or be right about? All of this is relative to how we think individually anyway, so how important is our opinion really at any moment? You see, as soon as the bullshit machine feels like it's losing, it gets louder and wants to talk over people. When it gets louder, it gets dumber, and when it gets dumber, it starts pointing out all sorts of things that it thinks are wrong about the current situation that only you can see. See? Look at you just standing there in your stupid yellow shirt. Stupid yellow shirt person wearer asshole, fuck face guy. And you don't even know why you're mad at the dude in the yellow shirt, but your bullshit machine remembers that your dad wore yellow shirts to work when you were a kid, and cheated on your mom when you were 9, so now yellow shirts trigger anger, but it's stuck in your subconscious and you just know you're pissed. The yellow shirt guy is the target you've chosen to be wrong, and that's all that matters. This is why learning what we believe is right or wrong is so important. That's why learning what the sensations are in our bodies is so important. That's why being aware of how we think and feel is so important. That's why being aware in the present moment is so important. This is the practice of learning the truth of what we are. It's also so important to note that importance is relative too, meaning in the big picture of the universe, there is nothing anyone can do wrong or right, so all actions are equally important. It's our opinions that decide something's importance in our own experience. Remember, being right is far more important to the bullshit machine than our even being alive, and just about everyone lets it run their lives because we're under the delusion that we don't have full control. We let it make our wrongs, our inconveniences, and our stories more important than what is actually happening in the present moment. Society is massively irresponsible in this regard, but it's how life is currently, and if anyone wants it to shift, we can only shift it in ourselves. Getting offended easily is a good indication that the bullshit machine has way more control of who you think you are than you think it does. To be offended, We have to be ready to strike at any time to defend our position like someone is going to take it away from us. I used to get offended very easily when someone called me stupid, even as a joke, and immediately defended myself as way smarter than everyone else so as to alleviate any doubt to my smartness. I hated being called stupid when I was a kid, and carried the pain of how that felt for the 5-year-old version of myself into my 40s. You know those arguments you'll hear or be involved in that carry on with two people calling each other stupid for a half hour, and it's usually because one person just won't quit. That was me. I had to be right. It was wrong in my subconscious mind for me to be called stupid by someone because there was a subconscious belief that the person calling me stupid was right. My being offended and subsequent defensive reaction to being called stupid was an ongoing agreement with the assessment that I was stupid, and my best reaction to that was to try to make someone else think they were stupid for calling me stupid. I will detail how to do this with ease in my next book, 101 Ways to Waste Time and Convince Yourself That You're an Idiot with Friends. I have since gotten past taking so much offense to being called stupid, or having anyone insult me for any reason because I practice taking responsibility for the thoughts I'm making wrong in my head. By taking responsibility, I mean that I'm able to notice the sensations in my body when my mind wants to complain about something it sees, and then choose my reaction based on the reality of the present moment, rather than what the bullshit machine's ongoing opinion is about any moment. It doesn't always mean that the arguing opinion isn't there for me to see, but it does mean that an emotion or sensation doesn't take over and choose me. What's the practice? Challenging our beliefs of right and wrong. Make a short list of all the things that you see wrong with the way things are every day, both in your personal life and in society. Pissed at politics? Write it down. Social and culture issues? Get writing. Gas prices, fast food, the justice system, music you don't like, people you hate, social media, movies, or just the way your coworker chews gum. Write it all down. Your goal is not to change the beliefs you have, but to feel them in your body. For instance, if you see that Carol posted another picture of her with your ex on Facebook and you feel this is wrong, take the opportunity to sit with those emotions and feel them in your body. Sit in silence and feel the feelings that the bullshit machine wants you to cover up by calling her on the phone and arguing, or getting drunk, or having a cigarette, or using whatever you use as an addiction to hide how you're really feeling. Feel those feelings as deep as you can and love who you are, and they will transform themselves without you having to try. You don't have to love any particular situation itself as it shows up in your mind, but let it be as it is. Don't make it wrong, and release the delusion that you have control over it. You must, however, love and allow the sensations to emerge in your body, because the sensations are the inner child that maybe feels abandoned, and you're feeling it instead of using the Facebook thing as blame for it in an effort to hide it. This is what we have control of, and the more we listen to ourselves, the more we learn about the truth of who we are. It wants to be seen and heard, and it wants to be seen and heard only by you. Don't pass it off onto other people. Our emotions can be triggered and show up in the current situation to make it seem like life is horrible when it's not. Sit and listen to how your body reacts to everything that's wrong in your life, and you'll begin to realize that you could spend the energy you're using to fix things that are wrong, to do things in life that feel right. You might also gain clarity that your ex, we didn't name him, but let's call him Doug, is your ex for many, many, many high-quality reasons, so Carol can take as many pictures as she wants with him. Look at you go, releasing the wrong in your life. Keep this practice for a while, and you'll see the false, egoic beliefs shatter behind the reality of the present moment. Find out what you're making wrong and constantly defending against, write them down, and know how they feel. Maybe they're beliefs of abandonment, lack, feeling incomplete, feeling unseen, unloved, misunderstood, or any of the many emotions we feel. But realize that they have way less to do with the present moment than your bullshit machine is imagining. Even if you think you want Doug back for a minute, feel in your body and where it feels familiar, and you'll find a long list of things the bullshit machine thinks is lacking at this moment. Sit and listen to see through the lie of you're not enough without the thing you're focused on, Doug, and then let it go. The first time I did a list like this, I recognized the heaviest wrong and blamed times of the day for myself, and focused on those. I realized that I was constantly swearing and belittling people as I drove my car, so I turned the radio off and became present while I was driving. It was tough at first, and elevated anxiety through the roof and triggered copious amounts of anger at times. But after a couple of weeks, I practiced and learned to breathe through whatever anger showed up and focused on how I was feeling on the inside. I let traffic be traffic and drove under the reality that I'm not going to change it if I wanted to. Unless I wrote about it in a book. I gave anger permission to be in my body without making the normal things I thought were wrong to be wrong, and it got tired of being angry. I also learned of some programmed nervous behaviors while driving that I have since been able to change. For example, I found myself trying to act natural by reaching for the radio if a cop drove by, like I was doing something wrong. Weirdo. After a couple of times letting the sensation exist, the truth came out and I saw the nervousness as part of a get me home safe paranoia program that I created to protect myself if I drove under the influence when I drank alcohol. Knowing that paranoia exists at other times in my life too has allowed me to dive even deeper into the program in meditation. The list is only part of the game to bring awareness to what you consider wrong, so don't forget to take action by not taking action when you're in your environment, and make time to practice when you're not. You'll find that it's a simple way to transmute the overreactive bullshit machine so you can learn to take over again. You don't have to make the wrong right. Just make it not wrong by not having to measure wrong versus right all day. Make what the bullshit machine is calling wrong as just is. Practice this practice at the level you want to practice it over the next few days and weeks, and see how it feels as you're practicing. Notice that as less is wrong in every situation, and you're not constantly using energy to measure right and wrong, there are more opportunities to feel good about where you're at, and far less to defend against. When we're not defending who we are relative to who we think we are, based on what other people think we are, we get to just be who we are. And that's always enough. Chapter 7. Not a Scientist.